Hello and welcome to World of Business, your weekly update into trending news and latest developments on the stock markets. It's also on this show we herald unsung but thriving business entrepreneurs. My name is Tafaranda Guta. Now, following the recent directive by Treasury that government will be paying suppliers in the local unit. On this episode, we want to look at strengthening local supply chains, how ZIG payments are empowering Zimbabwean producers, and we'll discuss that and more in the second segment. But before we get into all of that, we're going to give you the exchange rates as they are of today. The Zimbabwe gold to the United States dollar interbank rate was at 25.25 ZIG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at 33.81 ZIG. The Zimbabwe gold to the euro interbank rate was at 29.29 ZIG. The Zimbabwe gold to the South African rand interbank rate was at 0.67 ZIG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Botswana pula interbank rate was at 1.78 ZIG. We also give you the commodity prices as they are on the global markets. Gold per ounce traded at $4,592 after it went up by 3.57 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $73.54 after it went up by 5.71 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $553.10 after it went up by 1.39 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $1,956 after it went up by 1.41 percentage points. And that's it for the first segment of World of Business. Do stay tuned. We've got more to unpack here on World of Business, exclusive to ZBC. Welcome back to the second segment of World of Business, and today we're discussing the strengthening of the local supply chains, how ZIG payments are empowering Zimbabwean producers. Now, I'm joined by Mr. Alois Burutsa, the General Manager at Buy Zimbabwe, who's going to help us unpack all of this on this episode today. Mr. Burutsa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tafara. Thank you for having us. Good evening.
Right. Now we're going to just jump straight into it. What is the significance of the government's decision to pay suppliers in Zimbabwe gold for the stability of local supply chains?
Thank you so much, Tafara. I think that is a very significant development, which we believe actually anchors value within Zimbabwe. You see, by this particular policy initiative, what that means is that government is actually increasing the usage of our own local currency, right? This is going to widen the acceptance of and use of our local currency, which is an important development, because what we are doing by that is you are then reducing, government is actually then going to be curtailing or reducing the amount of foreign currency that that government is using, and we will keep that whatever foreign currency that we have locally, right? And also because you will find that one of the things that was leading to increased demand for the US dollar was that not only were we using foreign currency for imports, but even for local transactions.
Yes.
So that would then increase demand for the US dollar. And when demand for the US dollar increases, the rate will go up and ultimately inflation goes up. So this development is quite significant, and we applaud government for that.
From your perspective, would you say it's also helping stabilize the local currency, the use of it, the extended use of it, the expanded use of it rather?
Yeah. This announcement or pronouncement has come in at a very good time when we are seeing the ZIG stabilize. It has really stabilized, and we want to applaud the Reserve Bank, led by the governor, Dr. John Mshawan, because they've been able to rein in inflation. Gone are the days when before you do your costing, you are asking around for the rates to say what where is the rate today and so forth. Now you know that the ZIG is stable.
Yes.
So you can now even do your costings in ZIG. So there is absolutely no reason why anyone, especially if you are not importing anything, why would you want to be paid in US dollars? Because remember, the ZIG has been very stable.
Yes, since
right?
its introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, certainly throughout 2025, it has
Yes.
been very stable, right? So what it means is that you are now able, if you get your salary in ZIG, you are now can keep it in the bank, even for 2-3 weeks or even a month, if your salary can last that long, and you know that you will still be able to buy whatever goods that. Of course, we recently have seen the increase in the price of fuel due to the geopolitical issues in the Middle East. And one or two products have started going up. But by and large, there's been stability. And at the last time, our inflation figure was sitting at about less than 4%. So which is very good.
Yes,
Single-digit inflation. So people can now. So ZIG is very stable.
Yes.
And it is actually slowly getting its was one of the characteristics of a good currency is that number one, it has to be stable. Number two, obviously, store value. And I think the ZIG can now actually store value. You can actually keep it.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
So
you can now keep it.
Yeah, so it's storing value.
All right.
So there's really no need for people to refuse to accept payment. In fact, what is happening right now, people are actually looking for the ZIG.
That's actually very true.
Yeah, so people are actually looking for the ZIG. I remember when the governor was first got into office, he predicted that soon you are going to be looking for the ZIG, and this has come to pass. Yeah,
he did say that. Yes.
I remember very well him saying, "Look, you are going to be," and he actually said, "If I was you, I would hold on to my ZIG."
Yes,
because people are going to be looking for the ZIG, and it has come to pass.
We can say
we are now looking for the ZIG.
We can say it was a financial profit on that one. Now, how does this policy benefit suppliers, and how does it reinforce the buy local and domestic value chain agenda?
This policy actually assists the buy local agenda in the sense that the buy local campaign ceases just to become a slogan. Okay. But we are actually embedding the message, to say, you see, when you are talking of buying local, you are promoting local products, Zimbabwean-made products. Now, government is the biggest buyer in any economy.
Yes, that's true.
Including Zimbabwe, right? So, and when the government says they are going to be paying in ZIG, effectively what they are saying is they want to buy locally made products.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
And this is actually, if you look at the sequence of events from last year, February, I think on the 11th of February, Cabinet, after the Cabinet meeting, in the Cabinet minute, Cabinet actually made a resolution to say we shall prioritize buying local, right? And subsequent to that Cabinet meeting, the Minister of Finance came out and issued a statement to say government is going to commit to buy at least 60% of their products from local manufacturers. It went further. I think on the 10th of March, the Procurement Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, PRAZ, actually issued a circular to all procuring entities, government procuring entities, to say to them, please prioritize buying local. Buy from local manufacturers. So you can see, and now we've now culminated in this way, the government is saying they will pay in ZIG. So clearly you can see that government is walking the talk in as far as supporting local.
Yes, they are. They are advocating for it.
You see, they are not just talking it, they are actually walking it and implementing it.
All right. Now, Mr. Burutsa, I'm curious, how does this move align with the broader economic direction of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development, since we're already talking about the ministry?
Yeah, very good. Now, as you are aware, the Ministry of Finance and the Reserve Bank have said we want to move to a monocurrency.
Yes.
Right? Initially, it was mentioned by 2030, but that has since changed, and rightfully so, because you can't say you will have a currency change by this date. No, but the market conditions are the ones who determine that.
Yes.
So government has already said that they want to move to a monocurrency, and these are, these kind of pronouncements are exactly a step in that direction.
All right.
Right? Because you can't say you want to move to a monocurrency, and yet you are using foreign currency to pay suppliers, to accept, so obviously, we are saying it's very good that government has come up with it, but also we want government, even, some of the few services that are still left where people are still paying in US dollars from the government services, such as your passports, as an example. We also expect those to now start being paid in ZIG as well.
Yes.
So that we then show that, look here, we are serious about this. And also, by the time that we fully dollarize, people will have accepted to say, you know what, this currency is working for me. Because, look, it's already happening right now in the private sector. When manufacturers are supplying to their customers, these days people will say to you, some suppliers are even asking, do you have ZIG? Can you pay me in ZIG?
Yes, that's actually true.
The challenge actually is that the ZIG is in short supply. But people now have no problem whatsoever. Even in my business, if somebody wants to pay me in ZIG, I'm happy about that.
Now, Mr. Burutsa, I have a trivial question. Since you had mentioned something that the governor had said, that 2030 is no longer the deadline. When do you see Zimbabwe going towards the monocurrency, to say we are now fully using the ZIG in Zimbabwe? I would prefer to say by this time next year, hopefully, or by end of next year, we would have fully now using the ZIG. We would now have a monocurrency. But from your perspective, when do you see this happening?
Look, as I mentioned earlier, the Reserve Bank has done a remarkable job of stabilizing inflation.
And we applaud them.
Right, and we applaud them. And if we avoid any shocks whatsoever, and we maintain that trajectory, if we move the way we are, was already as we are right now, barring all these issues that have just come up with the fuel and so forth, look, the market has already accepted ZIG.
Yes.
Of course, because of the history of where we've come from and so forth, you will still have a few people who are still a bit skeptical.
Of course,
and I've been privileged enough to actually see the new ZIG and touch it. It's a brilliant note.
All right.
And I can tell you, when it comes into the circulation, I think it's in the first week or second week of April.
First week of April, yes.
Yeah, Zimbabweans are going to be so proud of that money, because it's actually real money. So you'll find that, coming back to your question, I will not be surprised if because remember what happens, that the market will just talk.
Yes, it speaks for itself. You can't
I will not be surprised by the end of this year if people are no longer even talking about the US.
It's possible.
I will not be surprised. It's very possible.
With the way things are around the world.
With the way things are going.
Yes.
Exactly. And now, right now, again, you've noticed that because of all these supply chain disruptions that has been happening, this is the time for us to actually strengthen our local supply value chains.
Yes.
This is the time that we should actually be talking about buy Zimbabwe, buy local, because we can no longer be dependent on others for our sustenance.
No, we can't.
Because anything can happen.
Yes.
The COVID period taught us that. Now again, you wake up and there was, all over, and then your supply chains again are disrupted. But
right? if it's a local supply chain, nothing like that happens.
Exactly. We are protected from that. We are insulated from that. And our lives will continue. So that is why, as by Zimbabwe, we are saying, let us strengthen our local supply chains. Let us use our local currency, our ZIG. All the countries that are surrounding us, South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, Botswana, even the whole of Africa, Rwanda, or Mozambique, they all use their local currency. And they are happy with it.
Now, I'm curious, which key sectors are seeing the most impact from this shift to ZIG payments?
Look, I think it's across the board, whether it's been manufacturing, whether it's been construction, because as I mentioned, nowadays, companies are accepting ZIG payments.
Yes, that's true.
Right? So you find that, and obviously, for sectors that are less import dependent, you know, the use of the ZIG or the increased use of the ZIG does not really affect them.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because they are not importing anything, right? And as I mentioned, and also even for those that are importing, the Reserve Bank has come out and said, if you need to import your raw materials, go to your bank. They've got adequate reserves to meet any import requirement
That you need.
Now,
Mr. Burutsa, I'm curious, another trivial question. Now, what can be done with the SMEs who are a bit reluctant to get into the use of the ZIG? We're talking about my tuck shop, my groceries. What can we do about that?
Yeah, that is a challenge indeed, because you will find that we still have such pockets of business people, especially as you mentioned, kuma tuck shops, who do not accept, or rather, you know, are quite reluctant to accept ZIG payments. You know, and I think it's a question of putting in place the necessary legislation, because actually, in fact, the law is there. It's illegal to refuse local currency.
It is.
It's actually illegal.
Yes.
You see, so all that is required is just the enforcement
of it.
Of it. You know, if we send our officers, whether it's the police, you know, whether it is Zimbra or whoever, they should be able to go and apprehend those businesses that are refusing to look. But there's absolutely no reason why someone should refuse local currency. Why would you do that? Because your supplier is accepted to be paid in ZIG anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So that's so true. That's so true. Thank you, Mr. Burutsa. Do stay tuned. We got more to unpack with Mr. Burutsa here on World of Business, exclusive to ZBC. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the final segment of World of Business, where we are discussing the strengthening of local supply chains, how ZIG payments are empowering Zimbabwean producers. And in the studio, I'm still joined by Mr. Alois Burutsa, who is the General Manager at Buy Zimbabwe. Now, Mr. Burutsa, how are businesses across different sectors adapting to transacting in Zimbabwe gold, especially in the retail sector?
Yeah, in the formal retail, because it's, you know, it's Buy Zimbabwe, you know, some of the big retailers are members of Buy Zimbabwe, so I can only speak about those for now. They've always accepted local currency, even during the days. In fact, that's one of the reasons why at some point the former retailers went through a bad patch, because they were accepting the local currency even during the days when the local currency was not stable.
All right.
They still were accepting it. Now, the ZIG is now very stable, and the retail sector obviously is accepting you can now actually not only go and buy your groceries, you know, in ZIG, you can even buy your furniture, your clothes in ZIG and on credit.
That's actually, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
you see now. So again, that is a show of confidence in the ZIG.
So it's safe to say the big players in the retail industry are actually promoting and pushing for the use of the ZIG.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. But as we mentioned earlier, the challenge is that there's not enough ZIG in the market.
All right.
So we know that the Reserve Bank has said that they will be, monitoring that situation, and hopefully we should see a bit more ZIG in circulation. And in fact, I think one of the reasons why the government has actually come through and said, look, they are going to be paying suppliers in ZIG, that is going to actually help in terms of increasing ZIG in circulation.
All right.
You know, and obviously there's no need for it to lead to inflation.
Yes.
Or to inflate. Gone are the days when where if you had, if government is no longer printing, let me put it that way. In terms of the printing press, the government is not printing. They are working a very tight monetary system. So that means that we will not see inflation increasing anytime soon. When it comes to fuel, in the last cabinet meeting that was held yesterday,
yes,
the Minister of Finance came out and said they are looking at the taxes. Remember, also the government levies and taxes
yes,
were contributing a significant chunk of our cost, the cost of our fuel.
yes.
So that is being reviewed, right? So once that is reviewed, our fuel, we'll then be able to manage our fuel costing and pricing.
All right.
Which should then result in stability of prices. And once you control the price of fuel, because remember, fuel is a critical input into production, into the cost of doing business.
Yes.
Remember, companies like for bread, they've got to deliver bread. All manufacturers actually they've got huge distribution networks where they need to be going across the country. So fuel is contributes a lot to the cost of the products, and that actually affects our competitiveness.
All right.
So it's important that we manage our cost of fuel so that we don't affect the competitiveness of our products, not only here in Zimbabwe, but even in the export markets as well. So we are happy that government is doing something about that.
Now, what opportunities does this create for SMEs and emerging local suppliers transacting in Zimbabwean gold?
Look, obviously, the SMEs, from my interactions, a lot of SMEs would struggle, especially when they needed to look for foreign currency and so forth.
Yes.
But now, when companies when the ZIG usage is now predominant, and when government is accepting payments in ZIG, other manufacturers and suppliers are accepting payments in ZIG, it means now SMEs don't necessarily need to go running around looking for foreign currency, but rather the SMEs, it's an opportunity for them to then actually, number one, localize their raw materials, localize their value chains, and be able to supply even government. Because remember, you may find that because government has said they will be paid in ZIG, so you may find some big companies might say, we don't want to be paid in ZIG, and they might refuse.
Yes.
That's an opportunity for the SMEs to come in and fill that gap. You see? So the SMEs, actually, this could be a very good opportunity for them, because you may find some established manufacturers, for whatever reason, by the way, might say, look, we don't want, because remember, this is a simple transaction. It's a business transaction between government and suppliers, or even in the private sector. If I want to supply you, right, Tafara, and you say you are going to pay me in ZIG, it's my decision to say whether I will supply you or not. Yes. Right? So equally, government has said, I'm only able to pay you in ZIG. Do you want or you don't? And some suppliers might say, no, we won't accept that.
Which is okay.
That will then give an opportunity for the SMEs now to also come in and fill that gap.
All right.
And supply government as well.
And from a supply chain perspective, how do local currency payments improve efficiency and productivity?
As I mentioned earlier, it's important that we localize our supply chains, right? Government is sending a message to say they want to support locally produced products. So therefore, we need to localize our supply chains, right? So that we preserve our foreign currency as a country, right? We need to make sure that our foreign currency is used only for reserves, so that we only import critical.
What is really necessary.
What is really necessary that we have to import, because we cannot manufacture it locally for whatever reason, right? But whatever we can manufacture locally, government should buy from those. When we had a meeting with the president, he said to us, when I say Nika, I am actually talking about Buy Zimbabwe, that we should support local.
Yes.
You see.
Now,
so,
actually, talking about Buy Zimbabwe, what initiatives is Buy Zimbabwe implementing to support this transition?
Look, one of the initiatives that we have, as you may be aware, we actually are having the Buy Local conference this Friday here in Harare. And at the Bi-Local Conference, which is going to be headlined by the Speaker of Parliament, by the way,
Advocate
Jacob Mdenda, yeah, he's our guest of honor, but also other main speakers will be the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Honorable Mangaliso Ndlovu, and the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Anxious Masuka, will be there as well. And one of the things that we are from that conference is we are saying, in the face of these supply chain dynamics that have come through, we need to amplify the buy local message. We need to be able to say at government level, at company level, and even at individual level, let us prioritize buying local. So in other words, even if you look at our, for instance, our pharmaceutical sector,
yes,
right, we should, we should not rely on foreign countries to be able to give us medicines.
COVID taught us a lot.
COVID taught us a lot.
Yes.
Remember what happened during COVID?
We were the Africans. We were the last to be prioritized. The last ones
to be prioritized.
Yes.
Those guys in the Western area, in Western countries, they sorted themselves out first. They said, oh, okay, by the way, Africa is there.
It gets the excess, what's left over.
So we should actually be saying, no. Let us support, and I'm happy government is now said, look, they are going to be supporting our local pharmaceutical companies, and in fact, I think NatFarm will actually be, they are setting up a production facility for our own medicines, right? So things like our medicines, even on our fuel, we should be, what is happening to our ethanol, right? Yes. We should actually move more towards using our own ethanol. I know we've had some exploration going on in terms of our own oil. That would be a very good development, right? So that everything, we should be self-reliant as a country, so that we do not suffer from these supply shocks that happen, time and time again. Let's localize everything.
Now, Mr. Burutsa,
support local.
Just as we're about to round up, looking ahead, what should businesses prioritize to fully benefit from this policy shift?
As much as possible. Use local resources. Because when you are using local resources, if you are paid in ZIG by government, you can then go to Tafara and pay him also in ZIG.
That's true.
Right?
That's very true.
So as much as possible, let us localize our supply chains, right? Wherever possible. Because when you are supposed to be importing, right? It means once you are paid in ZIG, you now need to look for the foreign currency. Yes, of course, you can go to your bank and get the foreign currency, but to reduce but more importantly, yes, you might get the foreign currency, but if this happens and then the Strait of Hormuz wakes up and it's closed,
yes,
and your raw materials can't come through, what then happens?
It becomes a problem.
It becomes a problem. You see, so it is important that we localize anything that we can do, so that we insulate ourselves from these supply chain disruptions that have become the norm these days.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Burutsa. We're definitely going to have you on another episode of this show to unpack more of this. Now, today we discussed how payments in Zimbabwe Gold are strengthening local supply chains and supporting producers. The shift also supports SMEs and aligns with national economic goals led by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development. Now, I'm Tafara Ndaguta, and you're watching World of Business. From myself and the crew behind the scenes, it's back to business.
ZBC News, the real African voice.